So here we have my only Archie comic. No, it's not even an Archie comic, it's a Jughead from the Archie comics, but I have this for a reason, okay? So let me tell you a little bit about this. The company was called MLJ Magazines. They started in 1939 putting out superhero comics. In January of 1940, they put out Pep Comics issue 1, and it debuted a character named The Shield. You can see him here. Well, this is a different more modern interpretation of him. Well, modern being the 1960s. Anyways, he was a character that receives a super soldier serum. The serum is called Shield, and each initial stands for something. And he has this American flag inspired costume. He was created by writer Harry Shorten and artist Irv Novick. Now, before we move on, MLJ Magazines became Archie Comics. So in Pep Comics issue 22, Archie Andrews and his Riverdale High characters made their debut in December of 1941. They became so popular, pretty much took over the whole company, and MLJ changed the name of their entire company to Archie Comics in 1946. Red Circle, which was an imprint of Archie Comics, later on in the 70s, they had some horror comics, and then in the 80s, they revived their superheroes, and they put out some comics for a little while. I'll get to those in a second. So let's get back to this. January of 1940 is when Pep Comics issue 1 came out, had the Shield character. American flag, super soldier serum, Shield. Okay, now we go to the end of that year, December of 1940, and over at Timely Comics, we have Captain America issue 1 right here. This is the debut of Captain America. He was created by Joe Simon. I know a lot of times you'll read Joe Simon and Jack Kirby, or even just Jack Kirby, but look, here's the original drawing. This is Joe Simon. He's a writer, artist. He worked with Jack Kirby. They had their own studio together. This is a creation of Joe Simon. Now, the comic itself was then also drawn by Jack Kirby as well, so they're called co-creators, but in my opinion, it's a Joe Simon character. But again, he has that American flag styled costume. He has a shield. Now, this particular shape of a shield, this is called a heater shield, and the original MLJ shield had this emblem on his chest, the actual shape there. And as we all know, Steve Rogers got the super soldier serum. This is 12 months after the MLJ character. Let's just take a look inside that first issue here. Look, it's just like the movie, right? The old lady in the front. Go back and watch the movie. This matches it. It's great. And look, Bucky. Eee! And you have a second story. Look how the mask doesn't come all the way down. It's kind of like a cap. Captain America. And a third story. Ooh, Nazis. Why is that guy green? Look, you get a better look at his goofy little cap. That looks cool from the top. And a fourth story. Look, the Red Skull makes his debut. This is all in issue 1. Check it out. See, it's a mask. He punches it and the mask explodes. He's got a normal head under there. And that was it. I didn't see him knock out Hitler like he does on the cover. But, okay, so now we get to issue 2, and ta-da! He has a round shield now. It no longer looks like the emblem on the chest of MLJ's shield. This is because MLJ Magazines complained, said, you're copying us, dudes. So they changed it to the round one. This is from February of 1941. Look, it's Hitler again. Wow, look at that creature. This is interesting. So now we get to issue 3. This is from March of 1941. Now, I pre-flipped through this, and oh, look. I just noticed this. This is the copy of a very famous, I think, Amazing Stories pulp magazine. Wow. Anyways, back to the deal here. So in issue 3 is Stan Lee's first published work. It was a text story in which Captain America throws his shield at somebody. Doesn't just use it as a shield or hit people with it. He actually throws it and hits somebody with it. It's the first time it ever happened. Stan Lee came up with it. it. And I flipped through this over and over and over again. It's not in here. They didn't reprint it in here. I don't get it. I've seen it. I've read it. This is my only reprint of this issue. Where did I see it from? And why didn't they reprint it in here? This drives me crazy. Okay, so we'll leave it there. Now, let's take it to here. Okay, so this is the Red Circle imprint of Archie where they brought back the superheroes. So we've got the Mighty Crusaders, and you can see right up here, the Shield. Here's the Fly, and here is the Fly number 1. More on this in a second. So in June of 1942, one of the characters from MLJ is called the Wizard, and he teamed up in a comic with the Shield, and the comic was called Shield Wizard. It was a spin-off comic, and in issue 7 from June of 1942, there was a enemy of the Shield named the Hun, and he had a round shield like Captain America, and he threw it in that issue. But here's the interesting thing. So it was written by Harry Shorten again, the writer of Pep Comics number 1 with the Shield, and it was inked by Irv Novick, the artist from that first issue of the Shield. But who was the penciler? Jack Kirby, the guy that worked on Captain America in between there with the round shield that Stan Lee wrote about him throwing. Now Jack Kirby is drawing a round shield being thrown, but not with Captain America, even though he's got a round shield now. It's with this villain to the Shield character. Pretty neat, right? Captain America would not throw his shield all the way until January of 1954, after they stopped having Captain America in his own comics. Superheroes had died out by the end of the 40s, and now they were bringing him back just temporarily in 1954 in 3 issues. Captain America 76, 77, 78. Issue 76 is from January of 1954. That the title of the comic was Captain America Commie Smasher. So World War II was over with. The Nazis were no longer the bad guys. It was the commies. It was the start of the Cold War. And in that issue, Captain America throws his shield, but it wasn't from Jack Kirby. This time it was penciled by John Romita Sr. and inked by Carl Burgos, the creator of the Human Torch. The original one from Timely Comics, the android. So when did Jack Kirby ever draw Captain America throwing his round shield? It wasn't until exactly 10 years later, in January of 1964, when Stan Lee and Jack Kirby brought Captain America back from being frozen in the ice since World War II, and they ignored that whole 1950s Commie Smasher version, and this was in issue 4 of the Avengers. And in that issue, Jack Kirby draws Captain America throwing his round shield for the first time. But it goes one better. In the very next issue, Avengers number 5 from March of 1964, he throws his shield and it ricochets and bounces off of people and comes back to him to catch it. And there we go. That's the classic Captain America we know. So now a little bit about this. So The Fly, this is another Joe Simon character. Written, drawn, created by Joe Simon, but the comics were also drawn by Jack Kirby. He made his debut in 1959. But here's the interesting thing. Joe Simon said when he was creating the character, he wasn't inspired by a fly. He was inspired by a spider. And he was originally going to be called, not Spider-Man. It was the Silver Spider. And he ended up not going with that, but in the first issue, not this one, this is the 1980s version, but the 1959 one, he made the bad guy in that issue a spider villain. And right on the cover, they're caught in a giant web. So it's pretty interesting because when Stan Lee wanted to create a Spider-Man character in 1962, he first gave it to Jack Kirby. And Jack Kirby, the way the legend goes, he originally designed him being kind of, I guess the way it's described by Steve Ditko later on, he was very similar to The Fly, or the Silver Spider prototype version of The Fly. It doesn't matter. Stan Lee didn't like it. He said no, and he gave it to Steve Ditko. You try it, Steve. Steve came up with something perfect, but he still didn't use Steve Ditko's cover. He had Jack Kirby draw the cover. But so there you go. So that's that. Let's take a look at this real quick. So this is my only Archie comic. This is from May of 1966. Jughead issue 132, and I got it for only $7. Reason why I got this is because I'm not a fan of the Archie Andrews Riverdale High characters and their stories. I don't care about high school hijinks and what have you. It's not my thing, right? You know, I watched a YouTube documentary all about Jughead's hat. If you'll remember, what was the mechanic in Gomer Pyle? Goober, he had the same hat. It was a very interesting documentary about that hat and where it came from. But I got this issue because it is the only issue of Archie Comics, well, Archie spin-off comics, where they actually brought the superheroes back. The superheroes were only in the MLJ version of the company, and then when they brought it back in Red Circle. But this is the only time they're in an actual Archie comic. And look, you can see the Fly, the Shield. I've never opened this. Let's take a look inside. Okay, so right off the bat, it's not connected to the cover. Hey, what do you expect for $7? So far we've just got the Archie characters doing their Archie hijinks. I did have an Archie comic once. It was a digest. My mom got it for me in the checkout line at Publix when I was maybe 13, and I didn't like it. I'd like it if she got it for me now, but, you know, at that age, I'm just kind of a jerk. Okay, so no superheroes yet. Maybe if I read this, I'd like it. I don't know. I mean, super popular character, right? I mean, everybody knows Archie. Everyone's Archie. That's how the song goes, right? Remember the Archie band? Well, I mean, it's before my time, but I remember the songs. Sugar, honey, honey, you are my candy girl, and you got me. You know what? The stupid superheroes aren't in the comic at all, you know? I figured I was going to be disappointed. It's just on the cover. Oh, man. Why do I always do this to myself? Okay, I only spent $7 on it. Maybe if I read the Archie thing inside, I'll enjoy it. Let me get this out of my face. Well, we could flip through here real quick. Let me just take a look, okay? We're back! Written and drawn by Rich Buckler and inked by Frank Giacoia. There we go. Shield knocking dudes out. The Fly's showing up. I bet you I'll like this. Action-packed. Is this from the 80s? Because it looks very 70s. 1982. Well, that's almost the 70s. Yeah, I don't know a lot of the other characters. What am I talking about? I don't even know these characters. Oh, you know, I did show that one comic I got. The Joe Simon's grandson and Joe Simon's son got together and kickstarted a comic based on all of Joe Simon, his characters, and Joe Simon painted the cover. I showed that in a past video, so I got all that stuff. This actually looks a lot better, though. This is pretty awesome. The Golden Age Shield. Ooh, a Golden Age story. The Comet, the Black Hood, the Jaguar, the Web. The Web. It's interesting. Oh, yeah. I'm gonna like this. The Fly. Captain Lancelot Strong. The Shield. Is he trapped in ice? But who is the Fly? And what about Irene? Cover illustration by Jim Steranko for The Fly. Let me look. Is this Jim Steranko? I mean, it's a photo with just some characters drawn over top of it. Let me see here. Well, it doesn't say. So, I don't know. 1983, so this came out afterwards. The Return of the Sinister Spider. So there we go. The Sinister Spider. That was the bad guy's name. Yeah. I'm gonna have to read this. Ooh, that looks very Steve Ditko-ish. Like Speedball. Speedball was a Steve Ditko creation. Okay, so let's look at one more thing. Right here. Captain America issue 311 from July of 1985. I made a video years back called Captain America Biker Artist. Go back and watch that video. Look, I'm going to make a playlist and I'll put it in with this one. I talked about how Captain America has a history of motorcycles and being an artist. And it's carried through the comics, the movies, the TV movies and stuff. And I love that aspect of him. Well, right here, this is the issue where Steve Rogers in his private life gets hired by Marvel Comics as an artist. Let's take a look inside. I've never looked at this. Writer Mark Grunwald, penciler Paul Neary, inker Dennis Jonke. I don't know. I mean, I've heard of Mark Grunwald, but I don't know the other dudes. Okay, so we start off with Captain America in action. He's visiting someone in the hospital. Maybe he put him there. I don't know. I'll have to read it. Hey, I had that. Mine was black. I love that guy, the robot watch. And Bonkers. I want some Bonkers candy. Oh, so here we are at the offices of Marvel Comics Group. Hi, you must be Steve Rogers. I'm Mike, one of the editors around here. Come on back to my office. Wow, what a grip. Good to meet you, Mike. He's younger than I expected. I'm sorry no one was able to see when you dropped off your portfolio the other week, but getting the books out on time has to take top priority over everything else around here. You wouldn't believe how many people submit samples every week. So, you know what? I just recently watched a movie. It's called Ambulance, and it stars Eric Roberts, and it came out, I think, between Best of the Best 1 and By the Sword, where he's like a fencing instructor. God, I love those movies. It is a movie where Eric Roberts plays a Marvel Comics artist, and it has Stan Lee in there with dialogue and everything, and Larry Hama from G.I. Joe. You see him walking around. All right, so here we go. Where the heck did you learn to draw so dramatically and dynamically and powerfully? And it just comes naturally, I guess. I'd be a moron if I didn't sign you up to do a regular book for me. I wonder if he has him draw. Right there. How would you like to draw Captain America? Well, you know what? That's pretty awesome. Good gosh, Steve Rogers got a job at Marvel Comics drawing Captain America comics. So cool. Ooh, it's like a council of Cap villains? Wowee, the Sinister Serpent Society. It's a lot of S's. Anyway, so you get the point. Oh, you know why they had to make up this dude? They couldn't get the rights to E.T. for the advertisements. Speaking of which, Steven Spielberg went to M&M's first, and M&M's turned them down for the movie, so they went Reese's Pieces, and boy, the company that puts out Reese's Pieces, Hershey's, which wasn't the Mars company for M&M's, made out like a bandit. Man, those M&M's were kicking themselves. Look at that, Steve Rogers drawing. Boy, that table's up pretty high. Cool. Okay, so back on an adventure and fighting this dude. I don't know. So that's enough for now. We'll look at something else later. See ya!